The clink of champagne glasses echoed through the dimly lit ballroom as laughter and music filled the air. Our fifth anniversary party was in full swing, a celebration of love, milestones, and everything I thought we'd built together. Emily stood beside me, radiant in her emerald green dress, her cheeks flushed from a mix of wine and the attention of our guests. "This is perfect, Aaron," she said, slipping her arm through mine. "Thank you for putting this all together." Her words made me smile, but there was something about her tone, a slight edge of nervousness, that lingered in my mind. I pushed it aside. Tonight wasn't the night to second-guess anything. This was a night to celebrate us. The DJ's voice boomed over the speakers, drawing everyone's attention. "All right, folks, let's take a moment to raise our glasses and hear a few words from the happy couple." The crowd erupted in cheers as Emily and I made our way to the center of the room. I took the microphone first, my heart pounding in my chest as I thanked everyone for coming and spoke about how much Emily meant to me. The guests applauded, and I handed the mic to her, expecting the same kind of heartfelt speech in return. Instead, her smile wavered. "Wow, 5 years," she began, her voice slightly slurred from too many glasses of wine. "It's crazy to think about how far we've come. Aaron, you've been so patient with me. You've given me everything I've ever wanted, and I don't know if I deserve it." The room grew quiet, the music fading into the background as her words hung in the air. I frowned, unsure of where she was going with this. "Emily," I said softly, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away, her grip tightening on the microphone. "I need to say this," she said, her voice breaking. "I can't keep pretending everything is perfect when I've been such a mess. I've done things I'm not proud of, things you don't know about." The crowd exchanged uneasy glances, the festive mood shifting into something tense and uncertain. My chest tightened as I stared at her, my mind racing. "Emily," I said again, more firmly this time, "what are you talking about?" Her eyes welled up with tears, and she shook her head, her voice cracking. "There's someone else, Aaron," she blurted out. "I've been seeing someone else." The room fell silent. Guests stopped mid-dance, their champagne glasses frozen in the air. My breath caught in my throat as her words slammed into me like a freight train. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she continued, her voice trembling. It just happened. I felt the weight of every eye in the room on me, the whispers starting to ripple through the crowd like wildfire. My hands clenched into fists at my sides as I struggled to process what she'd just said. The woman I'd spent 5 years building a life with had just shattered it in front of everyone we knew. "Emily," I said, my voice low and steady despite the storm raging inside me. "Who is he?" Her tears spilled over as she looked down, her silence confirming what I already suspected. She wasn't going to answer. Not here, not now. The DJ cleared his throat, trying to fill the awkward silence with a forced laugh. "All right, folks, let's give the happy couple some space and get back to the music." But there was no recovering from this. As the crowd dispersed awkwardly, I turned and walked away, leaving Emily standing there with the microphone still in her hand, her face pale and tear-streaked. The party wasn't over, but my marriage was. The ride home was suffocating. Emily sat in the passenger seat, her face streaked with dried tears, staring out the window as if the city lights outside could save her from what was coming. I kept my hands on the wheel, gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. The silence between us was louder than any argument we'd ever had. When we pulled into the driveway, she finally spoke. "Aaron, please, can we talk?" "Inside," I said coldly, stepping out of the car without looking at her. She followed me into the house, her heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor. As soon as the door closed, I turned to face her. "Start talking," I said, my voice sharp. Who is he? She flinched, her hands clasped in front of her as she looked anywhere but at me. It doesn't matter, she said quietly. It's over. Doesn't matter? I snapped. How would you feel if your partner hid their affair for months or even years? Write in the comments, my anger boiling over. You just humiliated me in front of everyone we know, Emily. It matters. So tell me, who is he? Her lip trembled, and for a moment, I thought she wouldn't answer. But then she let out a shaky breath. It's James, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. James. The name felt like a punch to the gut. He was her coworker, someone she'd mentioned in passing a few times, always with a casual laugh or a funny anecdote about their office antics. I'd never thought twice about it. Now, his name was a knife twisting in my chest. How long? I asked, my voice cold and steady. 6 months, she admitted, her tears spilling over again. But it's over now, Aaron. I swear. It didn't mean anything. I laughed bitterly, running a hand through my hair. 6 months, I repeated. Half a year of lying to my face, sneaking around behind my back. And now you're telling me it didn't mean anything? Do you even hear yourself? I was lost, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't know how to tell you how I was feeling. I didn't want to hurt you. Didn't want to hurt me, I said, my voice rising. You think cheating on me for 6 months is less painful than having an honest conversation? You've destroyed everything, Emily. She sank into the couch, burying her face in her hands. I hate myself for what I did, she sobbed. I hate that I hurt you. I stared at her, my chest tight with a mix of anger and heartbreak. Why? I asked finally. Why would you do this? What did he give you that I couldn't? Her sobs quieted, and she looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. It wasn't about him, she said softly. It was about me. I felt invisible, like I was just going through the motions. And James, he made me feel seen. Seen, I said bitterly, shaking my head. So you threw away 5 years for someone who made you feel seen. And now what, Emily? What do you expect me to do with that? She didn't answer, her silence more damning than anything she could have said. That night, I slept in the guest room. Or rather, I lay awake on the small, uncomfortable bed, staring at the ceiling as her confession replayed in my head. Every laugh, every smile, every moment we'd shared over the past 5 years now felt tainted. I couldn't stop picturing her with him, the intimacy they'd shared, the lies she'd told to keep me in the dark. By morning, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't let this go. She wanted to feel seen? She was about to see exactly what the consequences of her actions looked like. Emily's tears didn't stop the next day. She followed me around the house, her voice hoarse from crying. Aaron, please, she begged. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm willing to do anything to fix this. I stayed silent, keeping my back to her as I packed an overnight bag. Her words didn't hold weight anymore. She had 6 months to stop, to tell me the truth, to choose me over him. Now, it was too late. Are you even listening to me? She asked, her voice trembling. I've heard everything I need to hear, I said flatly, zipping the bag shut. You don't get to control the narrative anymore, Emily. I'm done listening to excuses. She flinched like I'd struck her, her hands clutching the hem of her sweater. Where are you going? She whispered. Out, I said, brushing past her. I need space to think. The first person I called was Theo, my best friend since college. He picked up on the second ring. Aaron, what's up? I need a drink, I said bluntly. We met at a bar downtown, one of those low-key places where the lighting was dim, and no one asked too many questions. Theo ordered us 2 beers, and waited until the bartender was out of earshot before leaning in. "All right," he said, his voice low. "What happened?" I told him everything. The party, the confession, the name James. By the time I finished, my beer was half empty, and Theo's face was a mix of anger and disbelief. "She did this at your anniversary party?" he asked, shaking his head. "Man, that's next level cruel." "Yeah," I muttered. "And now she's acting like she wants to fix things. Like I'm supposed to just get over it." Theo leaned back, crossing his arms. "You don't owe her anything," he said firmly. "She made her choice. She doesn't get to play the victim now." I nodded, but his words didn't ease the weight in my chest. "What do I do?" I asked quietly. "How do I move forward from this?" "You show her that actions have consequences," he said simply. "She wanted to feel seen? Make sure everyone sees what she's done." The idea came to me that night as I lay in bed at Theo's place, staring at the ceiling. Emily wanted to justify her affair by claiming she felt invisible. She wanted sympathy, a clean slate, but she didn't deserve it, not after what she'd done. If she wanted to be seen, I'd make sure she was seen in all the ways that mattered. The next day, I sent an email to her office. I attached screenshots of her messages with James, the ones I'd pulled from her phone while she was sleeping. Explicit texts, hotel confirmations, and even a few photos. The subject line read, "Unprofessional conduct between employees." It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. That afternoon, Emily came home early, her face pale and her hands trembling. "What did you do, Aaron?" she demanded, slamming the door behind her. I looked up from my laptop, my expression calm. "I told the truth," I said simply. "Something you should have done months ago." Her eyes filled with tears, but there was anger behind them now. "You've ruined me," she said, her voice breaking. "Do you know what they said to me in that meeting? HR's launching an investigation. James is furious. I could lose my job." "Good," I said, standing. "Maybe now you'll understand what it feels like to have your life torn apart by someone you trusted." She stared at me, her tears spilling over. "You're not the man I married," she whispered. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "You're right," I said. "That man died the moment you decided he wasn't enough." Her sobs filled the room as I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. This time, I didn't plan on coming back. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Emily didn't fight me on much, though her demeanor in court spoke volumes. She looked defeated, her once sharp confidence dulled by the fallout of her choices. James was nowhere to be found. Rumor had it he'd taken a transfer to another branch, leaving her to clean up the mess they'd made together. I didn't feel triumphant. Watching someone unravel wasn't satisfying. It was sobering. But I also didn't feel pity. She had made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. 6 months after the anniversary party, I found myself sitting in a new apartment overlooking the Chicago skyline. It was smaller than the house we'd shared, but it felt like mine. I decorated it with pieces that reflected my style, not hers, and for the first time in years, I felt at home. One evening, as I was sorting through a box of old papers, my phone buzzed. It was an email from Emily. Subject: "I hope you'll read this." "Aaron, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, and I don't blame you. I've spent the last few months trying to figure out how to make sense of everything, of who I was, what I did, and why I hurt the one person who truly loved me. What I did to you was unforgivable. I thought I was chasing freedom, excitement, something new. But all I found was emptiness. I lost myself in the process, and I lost you too. You didn't deserve any of it, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I'm sorry, Aaron. I hope one day you can forgive me, not for my sake, but so you can let go of the pain I caused. Take care of yourself. You deserve happiness. I stared at the screen for a long moment, her words sinking in. She sounded sincere, but sincerity didn't change what had happened. It didn't rebuild the trust she'd shattered or erase the humiliation I'd endured. I typed a simple response. I wish you the best, but I've moved on. Take care. I hit send and immediately felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It wasn't forgiveness, it was closure. Life moved on. I started dating again, though cautiously. I took up running, something I hadn't done since college, and even joined a local group that met every Saturday morning. It was during one of these runs that I met Claire. She was smart, funny, and refreshingly honest, qualities I hadn't realized I'd been missing until I found them again. One evening, after dinner with Claire, we sat on a bench overlooking Lake Michigan. The city lights reflected on the water, casting a soft glow over everything. You seem lighter, Claire said, breaking the comfortable silence. I smiled, looking out at the skyline. I am, I said. It took a while, but I've finally let go of the past. She rested her head on my shoulder, her warmth grounding me in the moment. Good, she said softly, because I think your future looks pretty bright. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. Emily's betrayal had been a storm, but storms don't last forever. They clear the way for something new, something better. And as I sat there with Claire, watching the world move around us, I realized I was finally free to embrace whatever came next.